I'm Christina Mackay and I'm the founder of INN. INN brings together investors and entrepreneurs. Today I'm going to touch on market. So when you go to pitch to investors, they want to understand the market you intend to play in. I'm just going to briefly go over some key points. So firstly, I want to talk about market size and growth rate. Secondly, about market penetration. Thirdly, about how saturated the market is. And finally, your ability to compete. So firstly, on market size and growth rate, well, is it a big market? Is it $1 billion market, which is what investors will want to hear and want you to be able to prove? You could have an amazing product, but if there's no one to buy it, if the market's only 20 people, then it's never going to be a successful company. So it has to be a large market in order for you to be able to scale your business and in order for investors to be able to get excited about it. Doesn't just have to be a large market, it also needs to be a growing market. You know, if you approached investors and said, I'm going to sell paper for my company for a living, you're not going to get much investment. So it has to be a growing market, not a reclining market, obviously. And then what is that growth rate? Is it a really decent growth rate? What is that growth rate over a period of time? And obviously that's projection and conjecture, but try to estimate it. And I would go for at least 5 years, if not 10. So that's your market size and growth rate. So next up, we've got how will you penetrate that market? So what's your go-to market strategy? Now you need to segment the market and then target your customer base within that market. So make sure you're providing a tailored experience to those different customers. Make sure you understand the market landscape, the competitor base, what customers are interested in, how they operate. Show that you've thought that through. Prove to the investors that you know how to penetrate that market. So next up, we have market saturation and your ability to compete. Now, market saturation in itself isn't a deal breaker. And some people think it is. Some people say, no, there's too many competitors, I'm not interested. But actually, if you think about it, when Uber came along, nobody was saying we need more taxis. Manhattan wasn't saying we're short of cabs. But Uber came along and they just redefined the market. And, they blew existing taxi companies out the water. So saturation in itself isn't the problem, but you do need to think through your ability to compete. So what's your unique selling point? What's the value that you're bringing that no one else is? And it's useful to map your competitors and to do a matrix, but there's not one size fits all. So think through, are you cheaper? Are you better? Do you have more capabilities? Do you offer something that's tailored versus generic? So really think through what's important to you and show the space that you're playing in, how you're different to your competitors and why people will come with you and who will come with you. So which customers will come to you over the competitors. And it's also important to show that you've done your research and you know who your competitors are by name, by size, and by strategy if you can get it. I tell you, one of the things that irritates investors is when entrepreneurs come in and they say, we have no competitors, there's no one else doing this, we're first to the market. Two things. First, they won't believe you, they'll think you just haven't done your research because chances are there is someone else doing it. And secondly, the idea of this first mover advantage, a lot of people don't believe in this anymore and a lot of investors are skeptical of first mover advantage because actually it's first stumble disadvantage. You've got to overcome all the barriers. That means you've got to spend money and resources on overcoming these obstacles. You're going to learn through making mistakes, and then other competitors won't have to make those mistakes. They can go straight through. So think through who your competitors are and show that there is a market there and other people have tried to get there and started to pave the way, and now you're ready to leap over them. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And then the final thing I want to touch on is, in terms of market, is really thinking through what about emerging markets? What about the global market? So really take your blinkers off. Don't think short term, think long term. Of course, you want to be practical and realistic, but you also want to grow and scale. And when you go into emerging markets or new markets in a global economy, you're going to have to adapt your product or service. You're certainly going to have to adapt your customer service and your sales representatives. So really show how you're going to do that. Are you going to have local people on the ground that know the market? Are they going to sell it for you? how are you going to grow across the world? That's really key for the investors. Any questions, please do ask. You can comment below or contact me directly and join inen.global today. Thank you.